in the House of Representatives, but after publicly declaring his belief in climate change, his constituents voted him out of office. He turned that defeat into a crusade, and Inglis is now a leading advocate for what he calls conservative solutions to climate change. And joining us now is former Congressman Bob Inglis. Welcome to Chicago Tonight.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
So characterize for us what your stance on climate change was before you announced that you believe in it.
Well, I just said it was nonsense. It's Al Gore's imagination. I hadn't looked into it at all. All I knew was that Al Gore was for it, and therefore I was against it. That was the first 6 years in Congress. And I was out 6 years, came back for another 6 with a very different approach.
And what changed your mind?
First step was my son coming to me and saying, "I'm voting, Dad, for the first time, and I'll vote for you, but you're going to clean up your act on the environment," you know. And so his 4 younger sisters.
That's a pretty harsh constituency you have in your household there.
It's a very serious constituency. You got to respond to them,
yeah.
You know. His 4 sisters agreed, his mother agreed. All of them could change the locks on the doors, so very important constituency.
But what did they say to you to look at?
Well, the second step for me was looking at the data and going to Antarctica, seeing the evidence in the ice core drillings. And then third step, really something of a spiritual epiphany, being aware of the call to love God and love people by conserving the Earth's resources. And so that came at another science committee trip, this one to the Great Barrier Reef. So those 3 steps, and I decided that it's time to act on climate change and proposed a free enterprise solution to it, which is very exciting that there is actually a way to fix this with enterprise, not with more regulations or actually with a larger government.
But you knew it was a risky proposition to announce, especially in a conservative district that you represented, that you were on board with something, as you said, that Al Gore was advocating for.
Right.
So why did you do it? Why did you feel compelled to come out and say this?
Well, actually, I think it's the best idea I came across while I was in Congress. You know, it's not my idea alone. A lot of people have had the idea. But if we just change what we tax, get off of taxing income and get on to taxing emissions, this swap can really change the whole climate problem. It can make it so that free enterprise has every reason to invent the new fuels, the fuels of the future. And so I'm very excited about that and want to continue it and see it through to conclusion, now out of Congress, no longer in Congress, because that turned out to be a heresy.
Well, yes, it got you voted out of Congress after having been overwhelmingly voted in by your constituents. But now, as you say, you have this new mission. It's called Republic N, so Republic EN. Tell us what it's all about.
Oh, RepublicEN.org, Republican.org, is about presenting free enterprise solutions to climate change. We had a wonderful event about this time last year at the University of Chicago called "What Would Milton Friedman Do About Climate Change?" You know, and the answer is Milton Friedman would put the cost in on all the fuels, eliminate all the subsidies, and watch the free enterprise system sort out the fuels of the future. As it is, those of us that are conservatives are shrinking in science denial because of an undeserved inferiority complex. We apparently think we're no good when it comes to energy and climate. So when the topic comes up, we go into science denial. We're actually very good. We should step forward and present the free enterprise answers that are out there, like putting all the cost in fuels, eliminating all the subsidies, and fixing the economics.
How different is it from cap and trade?
Well, it's different in that, I mean, some economists would say it's pretty similar, but the difference is that it doesn't involve a regulatory approach of capping, and it doesn't involve the insider trading problem of the trade part of cap and trade. It involves rather just a straightforward taxing of the hidden cost attached to the emissions, and then cutting taxes.
Explain what you mean by that.
Well, they're hidden costs from, for example, soot. You know, if Inglis Industries is pumping soot into the air, it's great for me, keeps my costs down, stinks for my neighbors, great for my customers. And as long as society lets me get away with it, I'll keep on socializing my soot. But if society says to me, Inglis, listen, you got to hold your stuff on your property and be even biblically accountable for those emissions, well, I say, well, this is going to change my economics. Well, yes, but there's a guy across town who can make the same widget for cheaper once all my costs are in, and society does better. And so that's the sort of the Milton Friedman approach.
Well, some critics say that what you're proposing will actually increase energy prices. Is that so?
Yes, it will take energy prices to their more true cost. What we have now is a hidden cost where the price of electricity looks pretty cheap, but it doesn't factor in the health cost of the soot that's in the air that ends up in people's lungs, causes them to go to the hospital. We pay all right. Because as Milton Friedman wrote in his book in 1975, there's no such thing as a free lunch. We pay all right for the full cost of coal-fired electricity, just not at the meter. If we paid at the meter, we'd be changing, we'd be developing new fuels, and those would become economic. As it is, we've got to prop those up with a bunch of tax incentives and clumsy government mandates to try to balance the scales there. The better approach is just to eliminate all those subsidies, including the biggest one, which is being able to belch and burn in the trash dump of the sky for free.
So when you say initiatives, or at least incentives, you don't believe, for example, President Obama, who of course has made most of his time as president, he's pushed for greener solutions. You don't think that incentivizing greener solutions is a good idea?
No, because they're really very inefficient. It's basically, if you like the Soviet 5-year plans, then we can do that here too. We can come up with some bureaucrats that say, here, we know the future and this is the best way to go. We end up with clunky things like the Soviets had. The better way is to have the dynamism of the free enterprise system where there's a level playing field, all cost in, all subsidies removed, and then free enterprise will deliver solutions much faster than government mandates could ever imagine.
You point to two countries that you say we should learn some lessons from. One is Canada, and apply some of their solutions here, and the other one that you say that we need to really fear is China. Yeah. Give me your take on each of those countries.
Well, in the case of our neighbor to the north, and the Canadians in British Columbia have a system that's basically what we're talking about at republican.org. Republican.org is basically a tax swap where you reduce taxes on income and shift those taxes onto carbon dioxide. It's working quite well in British Columbia, and it's a great experiment that shows that it works. And then in the case of China, the challenge is figuring out a way to get them in. Because if they're not in, this won't work. And so we have only two imperatives for this carbon tax that we're talking about. One of them is to be revenue neutral. In other words, you've got to cut taxes somewhere else in equal amounts so there's no growth of government. The other is it's got to be border adjustable. What it means is the tax is removed on exports, imposed on imports, so that when goods are coming in from a country like China that doesn't yet have a pricing of carbon dioxide, that tax would be collected on entry so that then we don't disadvantage American manufacturing. Because the worst case scenario is what we end up with is exporting that productive capacity to a place like China. Once they get there to make their widgets, they're actually going to emit more than they were here. So we become double losers. It's essential, therefore, to get China in on this deal.
Have you taken your message back to Capitol Hill? And if so, what are your fellow conservatives there saying?
Well, I think yes, we do speak some on Capitol Hill. Most of our effort, though, is in the heartland. It's in places like Chicago, in Illinois, where we're looking for the Midwestern calm and people that can offer some solutions that can actually work here. People don't trust folks with their hair on fire to solve problems. They look for people who are calmly approaching it with practical solutions. And so what we've got to do is go in the heartland and build support, because politicians generally follow, they don't lead. And so we got to show them a constituency, show them they're people that are ready to hear these practical solutions.